Hello, in this video I'm going to share 5 simple steps to follow when you're getting dressed for cold weather. Now, the good news is if you're really feeling the cold at the moment and the temperature's suddenly dropped, then you will get used to it, you will acclimatise, but it just takes a little bit longer to acclimatise to cold weather than it does to hot, so it does feel really chilly when it first gets cooler. According to research by the University of Iowa, it takes about 2 weeks for the average healthy person to adjust. Now, when it comes to dressing for cold weather, getting your layers right is one of the most important things that you can do, because not only do the materials themselves help to protect you, but the air that gets trapped between those materials and between your body also provides extra protection and extra warmth, and air is completely free, so you want to make the most of that. So step number 1 is to get your base layer right. Now, your base layer is the layer that is next to your skin, and it should ideally feel like a second skin and act like a second skin. So you want good coverage, so you haven't got gaps exposing things like your wrists to the elements, and then you really want to go for a material that is moisture wicking, which means it takes the moisture and then will allow it to evaporate rather than holding it next to your skin. So bad choices are things like cotton, because that literally soaks up that moisture and keeps it there. Much better choices are some of the synthetic materials like polyester and even merino wool, because they will take that moisture and get rid of it for you, and you will feel comfortable all day long. When it comes to the fit for your base layer, it should fit snugly but not restrict your movement too much. Step 2 is to choose a good insulating layer, because this is the layer that will trap the heat generated by your body to keep you warm. Now, if you want to do something like use a woolly blanket or a furry blanket like this, that's absolutely fine if you're at home, but actually it will work even better if you turn it around the other way, so that you're then trapping more air next to your body in the furry bits basically, and that's what any material that you choose to keep you warm for this layer will do. So if you go for something like fleece or something like wool, they actually hold that air within the fibres themselves, and that gives you that extra warmth and extra protection. Now, as with your base layer, there's good synthetic cheap options available, and fleece, you can get hold of fleece really cheaply, but if you want to go for something more natural, then wool is a good idea, merino wool being at the most expensive end. And the good thing about wool is that it's actually odour resistant, so it does have some benefits over the cheaper materials like polyester. So step 3, once you've got those 2 layers right, is to choose a really good outer layer. So this is like your shell, this is the thing that's going to keep you waterproof and protect you against the elements. Now, depending what kind of temperatures you're protecting against will depend what you choose for this layer. You may want something a bit thicker, or you may be happy with a very lightweight shell, but if you get something good quality here, it's really going to help to keep the rain and the wind out. And at the top end of the market, you can spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on some of the shells that are available. The things that you'll get with the more expensive options are like really well made seams, so there's no chance or much less chance of those failing. You'll also find that they've got things like fencing, so that if you're doing sport or exercising or hiking up a mountain in these kind of products, you can then let some air out when you need to, and you can perhaps get a greater level of adjustment. However, you can also get good waterproof, windproof shells really cheaply as well, so you don't have to spend a fortune. One thing to watch out for, however, is that you make sure that you find something that's waterproof rather than water resistant, because water resistant won't truly protect you. It might protect you against a very light shower, but it won't really keep the wind and rain out in the way those higher quality products will. Step number 4 is don't forget about your feet, because if you get all those other lovely layers right, you can still really let yourself down if you've got the wrong footwear. And there is nothing worse than standing around with freezing cold feet for hours. It really will make you miserable and ruin your day. So things to think about when you're choosing footwear is that obviously the cold comes up from the ground, so make sure you've got good insulation on the base layer of your footwear. So something like wellies can really let you down in the cold weather, because you can really start to feel the cold coming up from beneath them. Now, you can add an insulating layer within these, so things like woolly insoles are available, and they're really good and they can be really effective. But if you choose in the first place some footwear that actually will protect you against the elements, that's waterproof and that's got a bit of insulation within it, that will take you a long way. One other thing that people get wrong when they're trying to keep their feet warm is they end up wearing 2 pairs of socks. Now, this is actually a bad idea, because doing this can restrict your circulation, which means that then there'll be less blood flowing to your feet and they'll get colder overall. So don't do that, but do choose a good quality pair of socks made out of some of those materials that we've discussed before, something like polyester or wool. Once again, merino wool, good one for your feet, because it is odour resistant, so that's always much nicer to have fresher smelling feet at the end of the day. One other tip is to make sure you you warm your feet before you even put your shoes on. So put your socks on the radiator in the morning, because if you start the day with warm feet, you've got a much better chance of them staying warm throughout the day. Now, step number 5 is get your accessories right. Now, in 2008, some researchers actually debunked the myth that we lose the highest percentage of heat from our heads. It's just simply not true. However, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't cover your head and choose something that's insulating, waterproof, and all those other things that we choose for our other materials to put on your head as well. So get a good hat. Not all hats do the same job. Cotton hats aren't going to do a great job, but something nice and thick and woolly that covers your ears, that covers as much of your face as possible, is going to really help you out in your battle to stay warm. Other accessories to think about, of course, are things like gloves, which will go a long way. And once again, if you're going to come into contact with the elements, go for something that's waterproof, go for something with a bit more insulation. And actually, mittens are supposed to be much more effective than gloves, because mittens will allow that warm air to circulate, and you can share that between your fingers rather than having to actually keep each individual finger warm separately. So they are my 5 steps to follow when you're dressing for the cold weather. I hope that you found them useful, and if you have any of your own tips, please feel free to add them down below. But thank you very much for watching. Please do come back, and if you're new here, I would love it if you subscribed. I post regular content, including home hacks, general life hacks, and DIY and renovation content as well. So I'd love to see you again. That's all for today. Bye bye.